Hi there guys, got a video here for you today on the brand new FX Impact Mark III or M3. Since there's already quite a few videos showing you all the differences, in this video what I'm going to be concentrating on is the difference between this rifle and the Mark II and also the sub 12 specifics. Okay, so we'll jump straight into the differences between this and the Mark II. Okay, so first of all is the dual regulators. Like the Maverick, the FX Impact M3 now comes with dual regulators. One is still located in the block here and the other is at the front. Now I've already seen people on Facebook talking about just buying this front valve and putting it on a Mark II Impact, and I can say for certain that you can't do this. The thread that's on the back of this adapter here is different from the thread in the front of the block. So a simple retrofit of this second regulator or the new first regulator isn't possible. The next difference is the new gauges. These gauges are branded wicker ones and therefore should be more accurate than the standard black-faced FX ones that came on the Mark II. There's another gauge on the other side of the rifle, as you can see there, which is just the standard chrome gauge. A little further back and we bring to the new cocking blocks. Now the cocking block on the M3 is ambidextrous, so it can be swapped from one side to the other very easily. Simply screw holes in the top here, you take the grub screws out, push the pins out, flip the linkage over and then reinstall the pins and the grub screws. The other nice thing about the cocking block is the little spring loaded plunger. This just assists when opening the cocking lever and make sure there's a little bit of tension on the cocking block when the lever is closed so it doesn't rattle around. Next up is the reversed safety. On the M3, up is safe and along is fire. Next is the new cocking lever and cocking arm. The cocking lever is now perforated and a little fatter, and the cocking arm is shorter, which makes the cocking throw slightly shorter. Moving on to the other side of the rifle, we have the brand new first regulator gauge here. As I mentioned before, this is just one of the chrome bezel gauges. And a little further back we have the brand new power wheel. The new power wheel has 16 indentations, with 16 being the highest power and 1 being the lowest. On the bottom of the rifle we have the new trigger. The trigger uses the same rail system that's present on the crown, and it simply allows you to move the trigger along the rail so that you can have the trigger further forward or a little further back. If we look at the front barrel support, you can see that it has a brand new boss on the front of it. Now with the M3 the barrel is much tighter in the chassis. It looks like FX have increased the squeeze on the O-rings so that the barrel is tighter within the blocks. This makes the barrel feel much stiffer when it's installed in the rifle. On the front of the shroud we now have a removable 1/2 inch UNF so that you can now swap shroud calibers easily. I'm guessing FX are going to start selling these so that you don't have to buy a new shroud every time you buy a new caliber. I just wanted to mention that the M3 also uses a unique bottle valve pin. Has a small brass sleeve that fits over the valve pin so that it opens when it hits the new front valve fitted to the impact. This means that you can't use the other bottles that you may have lying around with the M3 without fitting that brass cover over the valve pin. Okay, that's about it for general changes. I would like to mention that the overall finish of the rifle seems to be of a higher quality. The cocking feels smoother, there's much less play in the cocking block, and also the magazine fits much nicer in the back. There's no more rattling around. And both the laser engraving and anodizing seems to be of a higher quality. Okay, that's about it for the external changes. I will be doing a full strip down of the M3. I'm really interested to see what's inside it, so that's going to be coming soon. Next we'll talk about the differences in the sub 12 version. Okay, so there are 3 major differences between the FAC versions and the sub 12 versions. First being the front valve. The front valve on a sub 12 rifle is non-adjustable. It's fitted with a black cover over here so that you can't adjust it. A little further back we have the quick tune system. This has been taken out of the sub 12 ones so that the power isn't easily adjustable. I intend to refit it on my rifle and then just adjust it so that the maximum I'm able to get is 12 foot-pounds. But they've obviously taken it out so that you can't easily adjust your power. And then lastly is the smaller plenum present on the sub 12 versions. The FAC versions have a much larger plenum, and it also has 720 laser engraved in the side. Now, a smaller plenum on the sub 12 versions is a good thing. Having two larger plenum can affect the way the regulator works, and for sub 12 foot-pounds you don't need a giant plenum. However, I much prefer the look of the larger plenum, so it would have been nice to have like a dummy sleeve that goes over the top, or have the large plenum but blanket off inside so that you only get the same volume. So with the sub 12 ones you do lose a lot of the adjustability. The only accessible adjustment is the hammer spring adjuster here. Both the reg and the front valve are protected with anti-tampers. Right, that's a good overview of the rifle, so you should be caught up to speed. What we'll do now is we'll talk about some of the things I like and what I don't like. So starting off with the positives, it's a fantastic gun. And I think the M3 is probably one of the best looking rifles on the market today. While aesthetically there's not a lot of difference between this and a Mark II, they've done lots of little upgrades that really add up. As I said before, the tighter tolerancing over the rifle has produced a much smoother and better feeling rifle to operate. The two regs produce fantastically consistent results, which should only get better as the rifle beds itself in, and better supported barrel should provide better groups and more accurate shooting. The wicker gauges are a nice upgrade and should provide better, more accurate pressure readings. Okay, so now we'll talk about some of the things I'm not too happy with. There really isn't much, but some things I wanted to point out. Firstly, the new cocking handle is perforated. While this does give a bit of extra grip, which is welcomed, the perforations or the holes in the cocking handle collect dead skin. This leads to a sort of whitish appearance accumulating in the holes. It just makes the cocking handle look a little messy. Next, I don't understand why they used one of these gauges for the first reg. The other two gauges on the rifle are wicker ones. Why wasn't this one? And just like the Mark II impact, the length of pole is way too short. I have a butt pad that I made installed, and I normally shoot it with the butt pad fully extended. Even when we compare the impact to the Leshy 2, a gun designed to be small and compact, the Leshy 2 has about an inch to an inch and a half longer length of pole. This brings me on to the only issue I have with the impacts. They seem to be designed to have add-on accessories fitted as standard. For example, the front Picatinny rail. It's extremely rare to see anyone using the standard pick rail. There's about 4 or 5 of us with impacts down the range, and every single one uses the pick rail extender. Since this is sort of like a standard upgrade, it would be nice to see an extended pick rail fitted from the factory. The same could be said about the standard impact butt piece. There are tons of videos on YouTube about the impact, and very few of them actually use standard butt piece. And when they do, the rifle is almost never in the shooter's shoulder, especially when the rifle is being shot off the bench or in a prone position. There's almost always a gap between the butt pad and the shooter's shoulder. It's not a massive problem, but it just feels like they're using the secondary market to fix flaws in the design. Okay guys, that's going to about do it for this one. I know I ended on a bit of a negative note there, but it's a point that I wanted to bring up as I feel it's sort of an issue with the Impact platform that doesn't really get talked about. And with all things being said, I really do like the Impacts. And the M3 is definitely an upgrade over the Mark II. Okay then guys, thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next one.